The ranch had always been our dream, a sprawling expanse of land nestled deep in the heart of Texas. My wife Emily and I had spent years saving every penny, and it felt like the culmination of all our efforts when we finally moved in. Little did we know that this beautiful setting would soon turn into a nightmare that would haunt us forever. The first signs of trouble appeared one hot summer night. The wind whispered eerie secrets through the tall, gnarled trees that surrounded our ranch. I woke up, drenched in sweat, feeling extremely tense. Emily was sound asleep beside me, her chest rising and falling in the rhythmic pattern of slumber. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to investigate. The old wooden floor creaked beneath my cautious steps as I made my way to the window. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting eerie shadows in the room. I peered out into the darkness, but the world beyond was shrouded in an impenetrable black. The rustling leaves and the distant hoot of an owl were the only sounds that broke the silence. I was about to dismiss my unease as mere paranoia when I noticed it, a faint, flickering light near the barn. Panic coursed through my veins as I realized there was no reason for anyone to be out there at this hour. I gently woke Emily and urged her to stay put while I checked it out. Clad in only my pajamas, I grabbed a flashlight and ventured out into the oppressive darkness. The night was unnaturally still, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for something to happen. I made my way toward the barn, my heart pounding in my chest. The closer I got, the more the air grew icy and the dread that had been gnawing at me intensified. As I reached the barn, I could see the flickering light more clearly. It was coming from within. I pushed the creaking door open, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Rows of candles were set up in a grotesque circle, casting eerie shadows on the weathered walls. In the center of the circle lay a grotesque sight, a life-sized, mutilated doll, its limbs contorted in unnatural positions. Blood, or what appeared to be blood, was smeared all over it. My mind reeled, and I stumbled back, nearly dropping my flashlight. Who could have done this? Why? Questions swirled in my head, but I knew one thing for sure: we weren't alone on this ranch. I rushed back to the house, grabbing Emily and locking all the doors and windows. We huddled in the darkness, the only illumination coming from the weak moonlight seeping through the curtains. I tried to call the police, but there was no cell service out here, and our landline had been acting up for weeks. Hours passed in agonizing silence. Every sound outside seemed amplified, magnified into an unbearable cacophony. The wind howled like a banshee, and the trees outside rustled in the most unnatural way, as if they were whispering malevolent secrets. Just as I was beginning to think that it was all a terrible prank, we heard it, a chilling, inhuman wail that sent shivers down our spines. The sound seemed to come from all directions, as if the very walls of our home were crying out in terror. I held Emily close, my trembling hands clutching the baseball bat I had fetched from the closet. The night dragged on, the darkness outside refusing to relent. Our exhaustion was overtaken by fear, and it seemed like an eternity before the first rays of dawn began to creep through the windows. We had survived the night, but we were far from safe. We decided to investigate the barn again in the daylight, hoping to find some answers. As we approached, the sight that greeted us was even more horrifying than before. The doll, which had been grotesque in the flickering candlelight, was now even more unsettling. Its eyes were wide open, staring blankly into the distance. And worst of all, it was no longer alone. Surrounding it were several more dolls, each one more twisted and grotesque than the last. Some were missing limbs, others had their faces contorted into terrifying grimaces. It was as if they were mocking us, taunting us with their lifeless eyes. We couldn't take it anymore. We packed our essentials and left the ranch behind, never looking back. Whatever had taken hold of that place was beyond our comprehension, and we knew that we had narrowly escaped something truly sinister. To this day, we still have no answers. The ranch remains abandoned, a dark secret hidden deep within the Texas wilderness. And in the dead of night, when the wind whispers through the trees, I can't help but wonder if those malevolent spirits still lurk there, waiting for their next victims to come too close, just as we did.